In the Generation 1 Pokemon games, Ice and Rock type moves are super effective against 4 types each, which is the most type advantages out of all the types in Gen 1. As such, Ice and Rock Pokemon have access to the best offensive same type attack bonus moves in the generation. But how well do these types make use of this battle boon? More importantly, who does so more? Let's find out. Type advantages. Ice is super effective against flying, grass, ground, and dragon types in Gen 1. The usefulness against ground and dragon are of particular note. Ground types, being some of the sturdiest opponents in Gen 1, can sometimes be hard to take down, unless you have an Ice type move that deals damage. A similar statement is true for going up against dragons. Your best bet at taking out a draconic foe is to use an Ice type move or a dragon type one. Or rather, it would be if there were any good damage dealing dragon type moves in Gen 1. Back then, the only dragon type move was Dragon Rage, which always deals 40 HP worth of damage and is unaffected by mechanics that boost damage output. It should also be mentioned that Dragonite, the strongest dragon type, and one of the most powerful Gen 1 Pokemon, has a crippling ×4 weakness to Ice. What's more, the effectiveness against flying types is a great trait, as there are many partial flying type pocket monsters. As such, Ice is really helpful when you're planning on tackling a large number of threats. When we look at Rock type moves, they are super effective against flying, fire, ice, and bug type Pokemon. While this is the same number of type advantages, they aren't as useful. Fire and flying types aren't known for their resilience in most cases, and ice types can be more effectively countered by other types, like fire and fighting, due to these latter two types having more available moves, but more on that later. On top of that, bug type Pokemon are pretty easy to take out for the most part. If you want to know why, check out this video! And yes, being able to smack a bird or bat out of the sky is handy, but ice type moves are even more effective at doing so in most cases. This means that in terms of how useful ice and rock type moves are at attacking with a type advantage, ice types are simply more viable. The number of damage dealing moves. Now, let's examine how many damage dealing moves of both types exist in Gen 1. For Ice, there are 4 damage dealing moves: Aurora Beam, Ice Punch, Ice Beam, and Blizzard. In terms of usability, none of these 4 is tragically flawed. Aurora Beam and Ice Punch are lackluster in terms of base power, with their values in this area being 65 and 75 respectively. However, this is due to these two moves being learned earlier than Ice Beam and Blizzard, which are considered to be mid and late game moves as a result of their high base powers, which are 95 and 120 respectively. This means that all 4 damage dealing ice type moves are fairly viable depending on where in the games you're exploring. In competitive battles, however, definitely stick to Ice Beam and Blizzard for the highest possible damage output. As for Rock, there are only 2 moves total, both of which deal damage: Rock Throw and Rock Slide. Both of these, frankly, aren't very good in terms of base power. Rock Throw only has 50 base power and Rock Slide is a slight upgrade at 75. However, before we hand over a trophy to the ice types, we have some other things to consider. Availability of moves. There is a staggering difference between the availability of ice type and rock type moves in Generation 1. We'll break things down by move for simplicity. Aurora Beam can be learned by 5 Pokemon, all through leveling up. Ice Punch can only be learned by 2 Pokemon, again, both via leveling up. Then we have Ice Beam, which can be learned by a whopping 62 Pokemon, 6 through leveling up, or learned by previous evolution, and 56 through the use of TM13. Last, but certainly not least, is Blizzard. It can be learned by 61 Pokemon total, 2 of which learn it through leveling up, and the other 59 through TM14. That's a lot of availability. Rock types, once again, come up short. Rock Throw can only be learned by a measly 4 Pokemon, all by leveling up. Rock Slide is much more available, in some regards. You can teach Rock Slide to 22 Pokemon in total, but exclusively via TM48. There isn't a single Pokemon in Gen 1 that learns Rock Slide naturally. I guess the 4 Pokemon that learn Rock Throw can become experts at lobbing boulders, but they can't, for the life of them, figure out how to slide organic debris down a slope. This is truly baffling. Ice types win this round by a, dare we say it, landslide. Sorry, let's move on to the next section. Base power and accuracy. We couldn't compare offensive move potential without considering each move's base power and accuracy. In Gen 1, Rock Throw had 65% accuracy and Rock Slide had 90% accuracy, which seems unreasonably inaccurate when you consider their relatively low base powers, 50 and 75. What's the deal? Why couldn't the base powers of these two moves be higher to warrant the less than ideal accuracy? This is speculation, but the reason is probably due to there being a gimmick involving rock-type moves having low accuracy, simply because it might be hard to hit a moving target with a thrown object. This argument is not a good one, but it's the one we have, unfortunately. Conversely, Ice-type moves either have 100% accuracy or 90% in the case of Blizzard. Aurora Beam has 65 base power, Ice Punch has 75, and in Gen 1, Ice Beam has 95. Blizzard, for some reason, has 120 base power in Gen 1. Out of all the powerhouse elemental moves, including Fire Blast, Hydro Pump, and Thunder, it seems very odd that Blizzard's accuracy is this high given its immense base power. It's easily one of the best Gen 1 damage dealing moves, only being outclassed by Surf, Earthquake, and a few others. It seems unfair that Ice types get the truly broken Blizzard and Ice Beam, while Rock types only get the pitiful Rock Throw and passable Rock Slide. And we didn't even mention the chilling secondary effect of most damage dealing Ice type moves, which itself is tremendously broken in Gen 1, where the freeze status simply could render an otherwise healthy Pokemon useless. That's just how the boulder crumbles in Gen 1. Sorry, Rock types. Conclusion. Usually, in these comparison videos we make about Gen 1 Pokemon, we try to give each side some points. However, Rock-type moves have nothing going for them except their viability on the type chart in Gen 1. Ice-type moves, by far, are the best for offense if you need a solid stab or coverage move. Again, there are other moves that are generally better, like Surf, Earthquake, Body Slam, etc. But giving one of your Pokemon Ice Beam or Blizzard can really round out their set in a meaningful way. Doing so with Rock Throw or Rock Slide isn't ever going to be nearly as useful in comparison. Rock Slide definitely has a place on some sets, but Ice Beam and Blizzard have places on many sets. Chill out, Rock-type fans, we're just stating the facts. As a consolation, remember that Rock is super effective against Ice. So there's that, right? Thank you all so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new. If you did, please consider liking, leaving a comment, and subscribing. We've got lots more Pokemon content coming, so stay tuned for those videos. Until next time, take care, fellow trainers.